And expressing yourself. When you come to this podium right here, please state your name for the record and your time will begin. We will first start off with Juanita Caribou, please. On deck is Denise Searcy. So Juanita, if you'd step to the podium.
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sorry.
I'm told that we don't have audio on our live stream, and so we want to make sure that everyone is
take a pause here just for a moment.
And everyone can be heard. So we're just checking
with
Metro. You see folks looking up here, our Metro TV.
Okay, Juanita, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium now and maybe just doing like a test to the microphone, and we'll get a thumbs up from Neil up there.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
We're all good. All right, please proceed.
My name is Juanita Caribou. I want to recite a few things from the Oregon Constitution. The preamble says, "We the people of the state of Oregon, to the end that justice be established, order maintained, and liberty perpetuated, do ordain this Constitution." Section 2 says, "All men shall be secure in the natural right to worship Almighty God according to the dictates of their own consciences." Section 3, "No law in any case whatever control the free exercise and enjoyment of religious opinions or interfere with the rights of conscience." Section 8, "No law shall be passed restraining the free expression of opinion or restricting the right to speak, write, or print freely on any subject whatever, but every person shall be responsible for the abuse of this right." Section 20, "No law shall be passed granting any citizen or class of citizens privileges or immunities which, upon the same terms, shall not equally belong to all citizens." The definition of civil liberty, liberty of men in a state or of society, so far only as abridged or restrained as is necessary and expedient for the safety and interest of the society, the state, or the nation. Exemption from the arbitrary will of others. We as a nation have spoken up loudly this last November that we want the interest of the majority of this nation and Oregon maintained of our God-given, our U.S. Constitution-given, and our Oregon Constitution-given rights.
Thank you. Up next is Denise Searcy, followed by Elliot Harwell, please.
Good morning. My name is Denise Searcy, and I want to speak on our rights given to us by the Constitution and the Oregon Constitution. The First Amendment guarantees the right to free speech, meaning that people can express their ideas and opinions without government censorship or punishment. It also safeguards the right to peaceably assemble and to petition the government, letting the people gather to protest or demand change without interference as long as it is nonviolent. We have unalienable rights, and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights spell out what the government can't touch, i.e. freedom of speech and assembly. The Oregon Constitution, Article 1, which is the Oregon Bill of Rights, Section 1, national rights inherent to people. We decree that all men, when they form a social compact, are equal in right, and that all power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their peace, safety, and happiness. They have at all times right to alter, reform, or abolish the government in such manner as they think proper. Section 3, freedom of religious opinion. No law shall in any case whatever control the free exercise and enjoyment of religious opinions or interfere with the rights of conscience. Juanita read Section 8. It is freedom of speech and press. These rights apply to everyone and do not cater to special groups. Speaking against an action is not hate, real or perceived. It is a statement of fact or opinion in opposition to an action or behavior. The question is, what is being asked here in Lane County? It seems to me it is an exceptional status for protection that is clearly already afforded, such as the Oregon Department of Justice has report a bias crime or incident. They also have on their website a gender affirming care resources tab. Number 2, the Lane County's DA office has a victim services division. Number 3, the Transponder website includes the following: a resource directory, HIV Alliance provides HIV testing kits, list of medical providers. There are 16 items that I copied down from this website that are available to the citizens of this county. For all citizens of this county, laws and constitutional protections already exist, as well as an abundance of specialized resources, additional special status and protection for perceived victimization, agreement with the agendas and ideology, and the expectation of the 2.2% are being forced on the rest of the 97.8% of the population. This is not warranted or necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Elliot Harwell, followed by Lake Castanda. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Elliot Harwell. I'm a trans woman who lives in Springfield. I moved here 2 years ago because another trans woman who lived here told me that this was a good, safe place for people like me to live. Over the past 2 years, that's been borne out. I met and got engaged to my fiancée here. She proposed to me under the waterfalls in Silverton. I've adopted my dog from here. The classic truck that I own was the last truck to roll off the lot at Summer Classic Cars before they were purchased. I've put my roots down here, and I've met dozens of other queer and trans people who call this place their home. Some who have started to live here the entire time, that they've lived here the entire time. Some, like me, who have moved here recently because this is a good place to live. I'm glad that the very first two people here spoke at great length about rights afforded in the Constitution. Right now, what we're seeing in the United States is those rights are being stripped away from people like me and from immigrants, from women, from veterans, from people who suffer from other, mental disabilities. This administration and existing laws are being slowly dismantled. When people speak of DEI, what they're really speaking about are civil rights. The right to assemble, the right to believe as you want, the right to dress as you want, the right to love as you want. What people here in this audience, like me, are asking for is that Lane County take specific, actionable steps to protect the civil rights of people who are trans and queer and who are immigrants. Many of these are already enshrined in local law and in state law, but we're asking for a commitment to that in the face of what is happening on the national stage. Thank you.
Please keep your cans air-bound, please. That would be great. Thank you. Next up is Lake Castanga, and then Richard Green is next.
Hello, my name is Lake Castagna, and my pronouns are they, she. I am a co-founder of Queer Eugene, and I run a state grant-funded county-wide program that supports queer staff and students. And I'm currently conducting a listening session tour in Lane County at schools. I visit GSA meetings, that's Gender Sexuality Alliance meetings, which is an affinity space for queer students to be able to go and allies to go as well, depending on what the students want at a particular school. And that allows them to join together to know that they are in a space that is understanding so that they can feel okay to be themselves, because in a lot of spaces in this country and in this state and in this county and in this city, there are a lot of spaces where it is hard to feel safe, whether that be because of different ways that people kind of unconsciously communicate unwelcomeness versus actual slurs and hate speech. In my listening sessions, I have learned that students desperately want to know that they are safe and there are people who are like them that get to be older. They are very excited to see me because it means that they have a future of being themselves. Yes. It means that they have a future of being able to be themselves, and it is necessary for every person and every institution to do its part of supporting students, staff, the whole community, because without the out loud promise of support and actionable steps, people might think that it is okay to cause harm or go against because they don't know that there is support that will stop them. So I think it's important for not just statements, but actual actions that show support is and will happen, because we all need that support, and especially youth, so they can have an actual future.
Thank you. Up next is Richard Green, followed by Amanda Dillinger.
Yeah, my name's Richard Green, and I would like to give each of you in the 3 minutes 3 reasons to support sanctuary for immigrants that arrive here in Eugene and Lane County. First of all, it is consistent with everything that Oregon means. Although the meaning of that word in our great, glorious state is lost in antiquity, nobody knows the origins of it, but it connotes a wholeness and a certain wellness of living that we are soon going to experience next week or the week after, when everything's going to burst forward and all the glory of the beauty of this gem of creation. And none of us did anything to bring that about. And we drink that in, and we live that here, and we should offer it freely to others who come here, regardless of their status. Secondly, sanctuary is consistent with all the values of our country. There's been a civil war fought over this thing of what all means, when that all people have the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The people that come here seeking sanctuary have that right. It's the foundation of our country that everybody has those rights. And it'll be consistent for you to do everything within your power to keep that commitment in Oregon and Lane County that is a place of sanctuary. And finally, each of us are a stranger and a sojourner on this earth and on our own journey. And eventually we're going to seek sanctuary, whether it's in just the memory of those we leave behind or on a better shore in a better place. We will be seeking sanctuary, and everything that tells us any wisdom, any records of humanity, that the basis of that sanctuary we will receive is based on how we have treated others on this earth in our time, the other sojourners who have come to us. My own immigration story, my grandfather talked about being met on the docks in New York by someone who gave him money, gave him aid, and when he said, "What is this for?" was told, "Don't worry, you will get your chance to help." My in-laws have this story of coming out of the covered wagons, and they talk about being able to stay in the records of staying in the forts and how the churches sent someone out to greet them on the way as they got closer. This is a place of sanctuary. It is the end of the Oregon Trail. It is where people come for a better life, a new life, and granting sanctuary is consistent with all those things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amanda Dillinger is up next, followed by Mary Burns.
Good morning, commissioners. There's been a lot that's happening in our country, and it's my hope that your families have not been affected. I am a queer and non-binary trans person, and I have a sister who is a trans woman, and I'm also a young professional that works in Eugene. Lane County is a safe place for people like me and the immigrant populations, but in order to keep it that way, state law has to be followed with regard to what the current administration is trying hard to enforce. I understand why a public statement about the sheriff and county administrators and others, why the commissioners might be reluctant to release a public statement that that will follow state law, because with regard to the federal immigration law that's My point is, I understand why you might be reluctant to release an official statement, and even though that is my ask, I will be clear that making a public statement is really what's needed for people in my community as well as the immigrant populations to feel safe. However, if it's felt like that might put a target on our back, another option could be to reach out to the organizations that serve immigrant populations here in Lane County specifically. And additionally, my other ask is for the county to stockpile medications, including gender-affirming medication, to ensure that if OHP tanks or cuts off these vulnerable populations, that the county will still be able to serve them. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Next up is Mary Burns, followed by Claire Joseph Meyer.
Hi, my name is Mary Burns. I'm a parent of a transgendered child. I'm speaking today to ask Lane County to add gender identity to your sanctuary policy. It is said that the county follows state and federal laws to protect people from discrimination and to ensure that they can access services without fear of immigration enforcement. In the current political climate, I'm concerned that my son will not be safe unless gender identity is added to the sanctuary policy. Also, the language should include protection for the people who help immigrants and the LGBTQ plus population, such as doctors, attorneys, aid workers, nurses. As for my son, his choice of what he does with his body is no one else's business but his and his doctor's. He is not harming anyone. He should have protection from discrimination based on his gender identity in employment, housing, and access to general and specialized health care. He should not be targeted or detained for his gender identity. He has the right to feel safe in his community. He has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, just like we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Claire Joseph Meyer, followed by the Reverend Dennis Reynolds, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for hearing us. My name is Claire Joseph Meyer. I am a Lutheran minister here in town. I also come to you today as one of the conveners of the Eugene Springfield Interfaith Clergy United with the request to let you know that this community of diverse religious leaders and their communities seek also to affirm the protections for people in our community who are made vulnerable by the current administration and its tactics. We do know that it is a very frightening time, and one of the things I'd like to do here is name the courage of the people who have come here to speak to this issue, speaking from a place of incredible fear. And Commissioner Lovell, I appreciate you naming love and the importance in this time. We know that love can cast out fear, but only when it is enacted. And I ask for your courage to match the courage of the people who have come forward, the people who have named the importance of protecting and loving our neighbor, that you would join with those who are sticking their neck out and making themselves vulnerable, and ask yourselves, what is the courageous call for us in a deeply troubling time? I thank you again for your service.
Reverend Dennis Reynolds, followed by Rabbi Kitsak, and I'll let you do the last name, please.
Chair Lovell, members of the commission. In part, I get to affirm what my colleague just spoke of centering love as a county. I'm a native Oregonian with, except for 10 years when I had a late in life career as a clergy person and I lived in Washington and California. I've lived here all my life and have owned homes in both Springfield and Eugene during my 30-year career at the university. And this has been a community of acceptance, as people have spoken of. I'm a cisgendered white man, and I have had that privilege my whole life. I also know the history of what Oregon has been. We entered the union as a state with racial exclusion laws in our Constitution. It took us a long time to amend that. We have affirmed legally protection for all sexual identities and sexual orientation. Affirmations are important. To say out loud who we are as a county, who we are as a people, welcoming, loving, accepting, committed to true diversity is of vital importance. So that's why I'm here this morning, to ask you to not simply affirm policy, but to speak out loud, to say who we are as a people in this county, in our communities. Thank you for your service to justice. Thank you to service for all of us as citizens.
Thank you very much. Rabbi Kitsak, followed by Victoria Cox.
Good morning. Good morning. It's a good morning. It's a very good morning. We all cherish freedom, every one of us, I'm sure. Feel that it's a sacred part of life. We all cherish feeling supported, feeling that we belong, feeling loved and cared for. This time in our lives as a society, we feel the storm clouds moving. And those darkenings of the sky can move us into a state of despair even, because freedoms are being threatened. People's sense of belonging is being threatened. People's sense of security is being threatened. As a community, we have within our grasp the opportunity and the ability to counter the negativity that we're sensing. Many of us are sensing, I should say. And we have an opportunity to affirm support, affirm belonging, affirm love, affirm freedom for all the members of our community, whether they're immigrants or trans people. Everyone in my tradition is created as an image of God. There's a divine spark in every single one. And we must do everything that we can to protect the sanctity of every one of these lives. If freedom is diminished for one of us, if security is diminished for one of us, if a sense of uncaring or a sense of caring is diminished for any of us, we all are lessened. Our world becomes smaller. So I hope that you will take this opportunity as holders of a responsibility, as leaders in our community, that you'll do everything you can to make strong the bonds that are innately ours to share. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Victoria Koch, followed by Tom Peck, I believe.
Good morning. Yes, my name's Victoria Koch, and God, the other speakers are just so incredible. I'm here as a mother. First of all, I'm a PFLAG mother. My daughter came out to us when she was in her teen time, and I just said to her, you pick the right parents. And I got very involved with PFLAG and supporting LGBTQ trans people, and she's grown up now, and she's turned out to be the most wonderful, incredible person, compassionate, kind, loving, and she's taught me so much about love is love. It doesn't matter. She's not hurting anyone, that she happens to be gay. And that we just need to know that they're just human beings. And I don't know why we make such a difference about them. And my other reason I'm here is I am a sponsor of two asylum seekers from El Salvador, and I consider them my daughters. They've been here like 6 years, and I can't tell you how hard they have worked. They put in 10-hour days to send money home, to be here, to be safe. It turns out they are also gay, and so it was perfect. And for me anyway. And I love them both as daughters, and they have worked so hard, and I want this to continue to be a sanctuary state and to support immigrants, because they're giving to us. They're giving to our society. Diversity is so important in our world, and I want it to be here in Lane County and in our city. That is so important too. My daughter grew up here. She did get bullied in her day, but I feel like there is more acceptance, and I want even more acceptance. So thank you. Please voice equality here. Please voice love here. That's what I really want. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Peck, followed by Max Walker.
Good morning. My name is Tom Peck. I'm the Vice Chair of the Friendly Area Neighborhood Board, and I want to thank you for allowing me to address you this morning. First, I want to say that I think it's important for white men like myself, some of the more advantaged people in society, to support people who are less advantaged, including women who want full health care and reproductive rights health care, people of color, including undocumented people, people who tend to be the hardest working people in our community. They want health care for their family, and LGBTQ and trans people who need full health care, including gender-affirming care. We all need to demand that the Medicare program not be cut and provide health care for all. Medicare funds about 60% of our Oregon health plan. The majority of people on the Oregon health plan, about 1.4 million low-income Oregonians, are Republicans. Won't they be angry when they realize that Make America Healthy Again really means losing their health care, losing their food stamps, and losing their subsidized housing? I know that the state of Oregon is preparing for this distinctive possibility of a dramatic cut in Medicare, and we are prepared to provide full health care. They are provide full health care for women seeking reproductive rights, all Oregonians in the health care plan, health care for undocumented workers, and full health care for gender-affirming care for LGBTQ and trans people in Oregon. I encourage you all of you county commissioners to support the Oregonians' right to full health care and fund the Lane County Health and Human Services to be equally prepared to assist our community by the assault from this new administration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Max Walker, followed by Shelley Fort.
Hello. So I'd like to take us back to the 13th Amendment, where it states that all Americans are free as long as they aren't criminalized, specifically when black slaves were free in America. This has brought dysfunction in civil rights and safety among people of color. Ronald Reagan, where he mass-funded police forces and prison systems. Due to this, incarceration rates went from the hundreds of thousands to almost 5 million today. And how does this relate to immigration? Donald Trump has been known to support Omnibus, which is openly funded prison systems and police funding. ICE is currently incarcerating immigrants just as they did with black people in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Donald Trump is forcefully incarcerating immigrants through ICE and fronting it as them being criminals, just as the mass incarcerations of black people. Immigration has nothing to do with that, immigrating, but rather control over minorities. I hope you take these words as facts rather than opinion and make the right decisions to protect immigrants and that the sheriff will abide by Oregon's sanctuary laws. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelley Fort, followed by Judy Bowles, please.
Hi, I'm Shelley Fort. Thank you, County Commissioners, for hearing us today and for being here and for serving us. I believe you all are here and in these positions because you truly care about our community, everyone in the community. Thank you for ensuring full compliance with the Sanctuary Promise Act and promising a safe and inclusive environment for all residents. I've been working with immigrants for more than 30 years. I teach English as a second language to adults. Some of my students have not been coming to class. They are afraid to leave their homes. They only leave their homes if it's absolutely necessary, just to go to work, just to feed their families. They are afraid to go out in the community. This is no way to live. They should not have to live in fear. What more can you do to provide safety and the feelings of safety for all people in Lane County? How can Lane County be a leader in sanctuary status? Thank you.
Thank you. Judy Bowles, followed by Claire Grums, please.
Say Judy Bowles.
I did, Judy. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm
sorry, it wasn't very loud. No, you're good.
So I had the people next to me say, listen to when your name is called, and I still missed it. My name is Judy Bowles, and I live in rural Lane County in Santa Clara. I'm a member of Temple Beth Israel, the Board of Trustees, and the former finance director of the city of Springfield. Commissioner Lovell, I think we are Springfield fans together.
Come on, speak it.
I want to be clear that I'm speaking as a private citizen, not as an official representative of Temple Beth Israel. I spoke with you a few weeks ago, and what I'm going to say this morning is not much different than what I said then, but I think it bears repeating. I see on the county's website that the mission of the county public health is to promote and protect the long-term health and well-being of the members of our community, and of the sheriff to make Lane County a safe place to live. Right now, there are harms directed at immigrants and at transgender people who live in our county. There are others who can speak to the specifics better than I can. So I'm going to keep it simple. Please confirm the protections the state of Oregon has established for immigrants here in our county and include transgender people whose well-being is in your care. Perhaps you're wondering why you need to make a confirming statement of your duties when they're already quite clear. I'm sure you know that right now people in our community feel confused and threatened. I was on a meeting last Wednesday with the sheriff, and I asked if he would be willing to make a public statement of his department's commitment to our sanctuary laws in the state of Oregon. He said he would be happy to do that. I think that that is very calming and reassuring to the community. I hope you see that something that you can also do. You can calm the waters by affirming that you will not allow discrimination in how you serve the community. You will continue to provide services to the whole community, and that includes services to LGBTQ people, including gender-affirming health care for trans people. Really, this just means steady the ship by affirming to the community publicly that you will live up to your mission. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Claire, followed by Bill Compton, please.
Good morning, I'm Claire Gums. My observations and recommendations after a first time attending the Lane County Commissioners' Public Forum on February 11th are as follows. Commissioner Trieger rebuked the gentleman who made public comment on his fact-based concerns for his wife and daughter regarding having trans women having access to the women's bathrooms and dressing rooms at the YMCA in Eugene. Commissioner Trieger countered his testimony by schooling him that trans women are safe, and he was not allowed to respond. My recommendation is I would encourage Commissioner Trieger to refrain from using her position to intimidate, but rather make it feel safe for people to share their comments, people who are invited to share legitimate comments in this public forum. And she could preface her statements as her opinions when they are and express them not as verbal attacks. Next is regarding trans women and trans men. I'm going to define that just so that people understand the clarity here. Describing men who are using artificial means to change their bodies in an attempt to assume and alter identity as a woman, and women who are doing the same in an attempt to assume and alter identity as a man, along with individuals of other gender-defying ideations trying to obtain special status in Lane County. The vehement demands by this local demographic and their supporters to obtain sanctuary status in Lane County, in particular Eugene, have employed various tactics to try and force that decision, especially verbal and physical threats like the recent outburst that erupted in a Lane County Commissioner public forum that was so violent they had to call for law enforcement. Recommendation, do not approve. All lawful citizens of the United States of America have protections and freedoms already granted them by the just laws of our constitutional republic. Assuming an alter identity and then trying to force a unique specially protected status in Lane County or elsewhere contradicts the rights already granted to all lawful citizens of these United States and poses demonstrated risk to the citizens of Lane County. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Compton, followed by Brian Matthews.
Really exciting to be here this morning. This is awesome. I love Eugene. I love Lane County. And I love the United States. I've walked the streets of Moscow and seen what communism does. This meeting would not happen this morning. It's a terrifying place, even still today. And so I'm thankful to be here, and all those who've shared their faith, their opinions, their desires. I love it. I came to Lane County because of the beauty of the nature and the beauty of the people and the beauty of the culture and the beauty of my lovely bride. And so I love Lane County. But really, I want to talk about a more ugly and insidious problem that's kind of hiding. And I'm glad that you're all here to hear it. Back in 2021, there was a survey of all Lane County, and the #1 priority of Lane County, as you well know, is public safety. And it was just shared just a moment ago. We want to feel safe and we want to be safe. And someone was speaking about our sheriff. He's a good man. He's a very good man. And he's committed to public safety, our safety. And it's so important for us to understand that in the strategic plan that was drafted by the Lane County Commissioners, their #1 priority was public safety. And that was back in 2022. In May of 2023, I was here and I was asking that they would consider taking a look at the strategic plan and making good on that promise. And Lori, thank you for suggesting that there be a task force for funding of public safety. That's awesome. And there is a steering committee that's right now working to bring recommendations. But the sad thing is that that was in 2021, the Survey, and 2022, when they actually had the strategic plan, they just started that committee in January of 2023. And the committee is just now developing recommendations? Why did it take so long? So it's important for us to recognize, you know how bad this is? 7 deputies have left for greener pastures, more money. 7 deputies. The way you figure that, that's between 15 and 20% of those who, like this gentleman here, is here to protect us. So my question is, are you going to bring substantive finances to the table to protect us? I'll be here next week. I have more to say. Thank you all for loving Lane County.
Writing that quote down. Thank you.
Hey, good morning to all, and I do mean to all. I'm a native Oregonian, a long-term resident of Lane County. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, married 41 years, father to 4 daughters. That's why I'm bald, right? My purpose today is to go back to our foundation, to recall the founding of this great nation, and to rely upon those foundations which are found in our Constitution. And by these to be guided and governed. It is indisputable that the United States of America was founded as a Christian nation, and that we have been the vanguard of freedom and the symbol of hope to the world. Just a couple of things, you know, when you say you're a Christian, I'm a follower of Jesus, and that's true religion. That's loving God and loving my neighbor. And I don't have to approve of what somebody does, but I do need to recognize their freedoms as an American living in a free state of America. I'll go back. The Mayflower Compact of 1620 expressly addresses our sovereign God Almighty and expresses the purpose for the founding of this nation, and that was to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. Jesus accepted everybody. He didn't condone everybody, but we're all broken, right? So we all need a remodel. But I go back to our founding fathers. This was from John Adams. The general principles on which the fathers achieved independence were the general principles of Christianity. The next one would be Benjamin Rush. The only means of establishing and perpetuating our republican forms of government is the education of our youth in the principles of Christianity by the means of the Bible. And here's John Adams. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to govern any other type of populace. This is Noah Webster. No truth is more evident to my mind that the Christian religion must be the basis of any government intended to secure the rights and privileges of free people. This would be George Washington. It is the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God, to obey his will, to be grateful for his benefits, and humbly to implore his protection and favors. There's more. You can Google these things up pretty easy. And a lot of opinions expressed today. My time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Jennifer Morgan, followed by Ellen Fersner.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Morgan, and I am a concerned resident of Eugene. I'm speaking today in opposition to the DEI bans that we are seeing across our nation and within this county specifically. First, let me clarify what DEI actually means. Diversity means including people with different characteristics and backgrounds, including race, gender, gender identity, age, religion, disability, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic background. Equity ensures fair treatment, access, and opportunity for all while eliminating barriers to participation. Unlike equality, equity recognizes that different people may need different resources to succeed. Inclusion creates environments where everyone feels welcome, respected, supported, and valued, ensuring meaningful participation beyond mere representation. DEI initiatives provide multiple community benefits: economic benefits, innovation through diverse perspectives and expanded talent pools for businesses; governance benefits, more representative leadership and improved public services; social benefits, stronger community trust and fewer instances of discrimination; public service benefits, better community relations and more equitable systems; long-term benefits, greater community resilience and reduced systemic barriers. It disheartens me to see opposition to DEI initiatives within our own community. As a biracial resident of Eugene, these policies directly impact my family's daily experiences. My BIPOC daughter deserves to see herself represented in our community resources. Our community should acknowledge its full history, including difficult chapters like Eugene's sundown laws. My transgender friends deserve dignity and access to necessary services. DEI initiatives simply ensure that our community works for everyone, not just the majority. There is room enough for everyone at the table, and our county will be stronger when all voices are heard and valued. Thank you.
Thank you. Ellen Firstner, followed by Ellie Grimmie.
Good morning. My name is Ellen Firstner, and I live in Marcola, where I have paid property taxes, worked, volunteered, and raised 3 sons for almost 39 years. I have been an activist for justice for over 50 years, and I can't believe I am saying this again. I am an immigrant. I arrived in this country when I was 13 with my family on a refugee status. Both my parents lived through World War II as kids on opposite sides of the earth. I grew up hearing horrific stories of their and their family's survival. In this country, I pass as white. Many in my family and others of the same background do not. My sons do not. While in high school in Marcola, they were victims of racism by Lane County Sheriff deputies. My late father was assaulted in Springfield when he was an elderly gentleman. It was years ago, but it still sticks. It doesn't go away. Once again, I carry identification on me, as I did during the previous reign of the name I will not say. This reminds me of my Dutch grandfather, who supposedly looked Jewish. Living in Amsterdam, he was frequently stopped by Nazis and asked why he was not wearing his yellow star. He always carried his papers with him, as I do now. I have had teen foster kids, several with families and parents without papers. One of the kids herself crossed the border with her mother. Harrowing stories of survival. I cannot imagine the constant trauma and stress of families not as fortunate as mine. I don't know if it's the stories of my family or the genetic memory of the violence, torture, starvation that is in my heart and bones, but I will fight for justice until my dying breath. No person is illegal. We all live on one very small earth, a very beautiful earth. People who come here to escape poverty and violence should be welcomed and cared for. It really doesn't do much to build a just society, just a change of attitude and a change of priorities. Look into your hearts. How is the state of your humanity? Is it justice? Or is it business as usual? As for the queer and trans community, it goes without saying that I stand fully behind them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ellie Grimmie, followed by Sherry Jones.
Good morning. My name is Ellie Grimmie. I live in Eugene in District 5. I speak today in acknowledgement of the vulnerability of our LGBTQ+ and immigrant friends and neighbors currently under attack by the President's executive orders. As you are aware, there have been a growing number of vocal parties in our community and in our country slandering the characters and threatening the safety of these minority groups, sometimes even in this room. I'd like to start by briefly addressing the previous comments made in Harris Hall on 211. I will not give oxygen to these transphobic statements, but I would like to reiterate that there's no evidence to suggest that people identifying as LGBTQ are any more likely than cis straight people to commit acts of sexual violence. They are at least 3 times more likely to be the victims of sexual violence. As has been repeatedly reported, it is most often men, familiar men, and men in positions of authority that groom and sexually abuse vulnerable individuals. Falsely suggesting that trans or non-binary folks are more likely to commit sexual assault is hate speech and should be denounced as such. Thank you, Commissioner Traeger, for your comments that day. Second, I would like to thank the board for continuing its role in upholding our status as a sanctuary county, and I ask that the board encourage a joint press release from the Sheriff, District Attorney, and Community Justice and Rehabilitation Department on their commitment to honor and uphold Oregon's sanctuary promise. Our long-held status as a sanctuary state is both a point of pride and what I would assert is an essential comfort, that someone residing in our state and contributing to our community should be able to trust that they are safe in their homes, schools, and public spaces, regardless of federal immigration policy or the whims of the White House. While ICE agents continue to conduct raids, in some cases, as we saw in Colorado, going door to door in predominantly Latinx communities and demanding to see documents without explanation, it is imperative that we are clear in our intent to protect our neighbors. Lastly, in this time of political upheaval, it is critical that we stay focused on how we can continue to meet the needs of this community and face impending federal budget cuts. Hunger is on the rise in Oregon, as federal lawmakers are threatening cuts to SNAP benefits. Many of our wildland firefighters are federally funded and should be training for the coming fire season, but have yet to be hired due to the federal freeze. We have a housing shortage, but EPA-funded housing grants are falling through. Cuts to Medicaid would disproportionately impact vulnerable members of our community. Now is not the time to focus on organizing prayer in our public spaces. We need to put our energy where it can have the greatest impact. Now is the time to focus on how we can pivot and implement safety measures to protect our community from the coming cuts. We need protections for health care, including gender-affirming care, mental health care, and family planning, as well as food access and education. And we need to ensure that no one is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Jones, followed by Rose Wildy.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sherry Jones. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a resident of Eugene. I'm here again to share some information about what it could mean to Lane County to add protections to our sanctuary status. It is the status for the whole of our beautiful state of Oregon and is being developed as additional and local protections for our Lane County community. Our state's sanctuary toolkit states that everyone has the right to live, work, play, and learn safely in Oregon. I will reiterate the everyone. Sensitive areas such as schools, houses of worships, and hospitals are not protected under Oregon law, and on January 20th, 2025, the federal government rescinded a Department of Homeland Security memo directive that gives ICE agents authority to take enforcement actions in any of these spaces. The new administration gives us not one moment to pause and consider. We must move to protect our most vulnerable Oregonians as soon as possible. It is not business as usual in our ununited states. The majority of Oregonians did not vote for hate and falsehood. For me personally, I want to add and support the movement to assist and protect our transgender community members, as I am the proud parent of a transgender adult. Those are not only our adult voting members, but also our transgender youth members and their families. I would like to reiterate what gender-affirming care is. Not that I don't think you all know that yet, as you've been hearing from us dedicated members of our community for months now. But I want to be sure that you all understand that our transgender loved ones are not asking for anything that all non-othered members of our community have access to. All gender-affirming care is medication or other medical care that non-transgender people also receive, such as hormones, estrogen, or testosterone, so that a trans person can live and express themselves consistent with their male or female identity. I am talking about adult people making an educated decision their self-determination to live and have effect on their own bodies, not yours or mine, but their own body. In Oregon, we have chosen other self-determinant options, such as our right to choose and our right to die with dignity. Each is a personal decision, a very personal decision. No one takes these decisions lightly, and no one has the right to make that decision for another. Let's not make this decision for another and stand up for the rights that our transgender family members need us to do right now. Let's not elevate the hate. I would like to close with a thought for all of you, those of you at your desks and those of you in the audience. If you have ever taken a hormone, such as a birth control pill, estrogen replacement therapy, or testosterone treatment, then you understand the need for HRT availability for our transgender community. They are the same meds. Please include these medications in our sanctuary plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Rose Wildy, followed by David Eigel.
Hi, Rose Wildy. I live in rural Lane County. So in the 6 weeks since I last spoke with you about my transgender cousin's suicide, many more of my worst fears about our president and how he may harm our community members have come true. My friend's child dropped out of school to get a GAD because as a transgender person, they felt alienated and unsupported. The president ordered all schools and government programs to essentially drop all DEI programs, arguing that programs meant to address the legacy of colonization, slavery, homophobia, sexism, and racism were themselves discriminatory. I've spent decades learning about my own past, how my European ancestors came to the U.S. to occupy land stolen from Native Americans, how my grandparents were able to move into the suburbs to seek a better life for their kids, my parents' generation, but redlining made that impossible for their Black and Latino neighbors. As a school board member, speaking only for myself, I've had to reckon with the reality that the institution that I believe in so strongly was also part of the system where Native American children were first to forget their native language, cut their hair, learn to farm, and labor for others, instead of living on the land that my ancestors took over and called their own. Trump and his lackeys are spreading outright lies about our past and about the impact on people today. They claim the ways that we attempt to make up for this legacy are in itself racist and discriminatory. It's so wrong. Last year, I got to travel to New York City, and I saw the Stonewall Memorial, and I was so excited to see that we were actually making a national park out of a place where transgender people particularly led the fight to be recognized and allowed to love as they wish in New York City. But here we are 50 years later, and they've literally taken the T off of LGBTQ out of the monument. So they've literally erased transgender people. So our kids need to know that we don't accept this erasure, that we embrace and love them as they are and as they change. It's not enough to simply cite proclamations or state laws and say you'll obey them. We really need a clear declaration. I'll leave it to others to fill out more of the details around that, but I appreciate your time and attention today.
Thank you. David Eigel, followed by Jolene Seisman.
David Eigel, good morning. As I've listened this morning, everybody pretty much in one way or another has expressed their love and concern for others, and that's a wonderful thing. And I'm happy to say that art history includes others, going way back, who had those same feelings. As you know, one of those people I've tried to tell the truth about is Professor Frederick Dunn, who here is a man who is one of the most ecumenical, a member of one of the most heroic abolitionist families in America as a result of a historical hoax that was perpetrated beginning in 1992, has been totally misrepresented. There's a great deal of misinformation that's been come from the U of O and our own county government. For example, someone today mentioned that reference to Eugene being a sundown town. Eugene was never a sundown town. That's misinformation, which I've documented if anybody's interested. In dealing with this, I'm putting together not just the academic piece I've already got up on my webpage, but a very clear blow-by-blow account of how the misinformation was fed beginning in 1992 and who this man really was. In contrast, and among other things I brought up last week was the fact that the Reverend Frederick Jennings the rector of St. Mary's Episcopal Church has been portrayed as a Klansman. In point of fact, in the 1924 school board event, Eugene school board event, where Catholic teachers were not rehired, Jennings was the vociferous, outspoken person who was calling attention and saying, bad, bad, bad. He was an anti-Klan person, just like Dunn, totally misrepresented. Also, Commissioner Trigger, I've asked the commissioners, in the hopes of getting the U of O to acknowledge this wrongness, to simply ask a question. I will provide you with the information, all nicely written out with supporting documentation, and simply ask the U of O. The current president says, his office said, we have incontrovertible evidence about Dunn, and then after repeated requests, they can't produce it. So it would be a nice thing if people could simply ask a question. You have written me that you would not ask a question, and in the remonstrance, I would greatly like to hear why you think it inappropriate to ask such a question, let the truth come out. It's going to come out anyway, because I'm going to do mass distribution of this stuff now after all these years, and people will be able to examine the primary source documents as well as the analysis. And there's only one answer. We've been lied to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jolene Seisman, and then Cassandra is next, please.
Good morning. Thank you, commissioners and community members, especially those who speak the truth. My name is Jolene Simpson. I'm a River Road resident. I've lived in Eugene for almost 50 years. I want to say that I speak both personally and professionally today. I'm a retired nurse practitioner. I worked at the University of Oregon Health Center for 25 years, and prior to that, in the community as a nurse. I've seen firsthand the implications of lack of medical care for vulnerable communities, including those who are immigrants, people of color, members of the LGBTQ community, as well as those who are economically disadvantaged. And I want to say that it's extremely important to continue to support and hold up the rights and benefits of all community members. I speak personally for myself and my family, saying we have experienced hate crimes, including stones and bullying, thrown stones and bullying on many occasions. And it cuts deep. And I think demonstrating love and care and support for all community members is extremely important during these times. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cassandra, followed by Carolina Jackson.
Hello, I'm Cassandra Myrand. How are y'all doing today? I'm actually here. I was here last month, and I was so impressed, I decided to come back. So, I teach coping through the arts and resilience, coping strategies using the arts and resiliency, as well as helping people make transitions in their life as far as when their children go to college, empty nesters, people going into retirement, people coming out in the LGBTQ community, people coming out of addiction and trying to establish themselves. And one of the things that I'm seeing a lot from, from all of the folks that are speaking, I hear a lot of fear. I hear a lot of love. I hear them looking to you to be our leaders, and I see you wanting to be. But there's my friends and family that haven't come here to see you. They don't know if they believe it. They don't know if you actually are going to, because you haven't put it in writing. So they're afraid to trust, because the other things that weren't put in writing and they were just spoken of went out the window. So there's a lot of fear there. And I see also that folks on both sides of the dynamic, there's fear because we're afraid of not being taken care of, not having a place, not having a home. And I can see where, you're going, well, if, it's not me, it's them. They're the problem. That's not true. Because the reality is that eventually, we're all them. We all eventually are that other person that is not on the good side of whatever it is. Doesn't matter what it is. And I'd like people to think about that as far as love. It's not about who you sleep with. It's not about who you pray to. It's not about, if you're purple with pink polka dots. That's the way I was raised in rural Oregon. My parents, if you were a good person, you were a good person. And that's all that mattered. And my dad, he went to Vietnam, and he has some issues with the American public, and I hear him having issues again. Because this is not anything like what he was supposed to be standing up, representing. He didn't want to go to begin with. To know that my former trans girlfriend is at risk, he is not a happy camper, I ask that you please be the leaders we really truly need right now. Because, we really truly need it right now. And we need to hear from you.
Thank you, Cassandra.
And see it. Thank you.
Carolina Jackson, followed by Bien Quazana.
Good morning, thank you. It's Carolina Jackson. I have to read because I'm not a great public speaker. I get nervous, but this is too important to be quiet. I'm speaking today as a constituent, a voter, an immigrant, a mother that I want my kids to be proud of their heritage. I want them to be proud to be Oregonians. I want them to be proud to live in this community that I have found very welcoming. We have lived here 15 years now, and we moved here because of the history of Oregon of being welcoming, not the old history, but the new history, the new community that we have. And immigrants and people of color are being disproportionately targeted by the cruel practices of the current administration. And it's our responsibility to stand against these injustices. I urge you today to ensure that our county, Lane County, and the resources are used to protect and not harm our immigrant communities. This includes holding the sheriff's office and all the county staff accountable for fully complying with Oregon sanctuary law and being educated in what that means, being educated and educating our community of what that means, being a sanctuary state. We must not allow local resources to be used for federal immigration enforcement in any way, which only fosters fear and division. And I'm asking today for your commitment to making Lane County, and I don't want to say making, to continue having Lane County being a place where we all can thrive, a place where we all feel welcome, that sense of belonging, that sense that we can participate and be part of this community. Hopefully that all of us see reflected in our leadership as well at some point. And I'm asking for your commitment and to all residents, regardless of their race, immigration status, gender identity, for everyone, for all of us to feel safe. And what that looks like is with a public statement. We're really asking for you to put your words out there, put it into writing, making, like I said, documenting and showing this is our commitment, this is what our voters, where our voting goes. This is you upstanding our democratic values. And I urge you to take concrete steps and strong commitment to uphold your shared values of inclusion and justice for all of us to feel empowered to thrive and fully participate in this community. And I want to add one more thing. There was a previous statement, and I want to clarify, because it referred to lawful citizens. And I want just to make clear that being undocumented is not a crime. Is legit not a crime. It's simply being present in the United States without authorization is a civil violation, but it's not a criminal offense. So no one who is undocumented is a criminal. I just wanted that on record and to be clear for those who need education. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you very much. Next up is Bien Quazana, followed by Cassandra Married, if I can read that writing right, sorry.
Hi, my name is Bien. I'm 16 years old and I am transgender, and I'm here today on behalf of my trans community because I have seen firsthand the effects that happen. I have seen what happens when trans people are accepted by their community and have access to gender affirming care, and I have seen what happens when we do not. And I have friends who have contemplated suicide because they are terrified of what is going on right now in our country. So we need to make it clear that trans people will be protected in Lane County, because we are your neighbors too, and we're members of this community, and we just want to be treated equally. And additionally, I also want to say that I'm here for my trans community and also for my immigrant neighbors who need to be protected as well. So please, please protect the people most vulnerable who need protection. Thank you.
Thank you. Cassandra Mirid and then Sydney Johnstone, please. Did Cassandra already speak? Okay, let's move to Sydney Johnstone then, and then followed by Nafali Renshaw.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sydney Johnstone. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. I'm a grandchild of two. My grandparents were immigrants from Puerto Rico and Scotland. They made a way for themselves in Detroit. I grew up in a city of diversity and cultural, I grew up with people from Syria and Lebanon and all over the Middle East, blacks, whites. Went to school with people from all around the world. I grew up in a city torn by racial diversity, violence, crime, city burned down because of racial just differences. And I came to Oregon over 20 years ago because I found that it was a place of beauty. I found that the people here were just beautiful people. I've lived all over the country. I'm a United Air Force veteran. I'm a retired medical provider. I've seen how our community has been impacted by shortages. I've seen how we've defunded the police, and our communities are at risk if we bring in unvetted people. A lot of people would like to think that we're not going to be riddled with crime and we're not going to see negative changes in our community by having people here from who knows where. But I believe that we should welcome all if you come here legally, and our healthcare system cannot afford to even take care of the people that are already in the community, much less those who aren't citizens. I've been a volunteer at the Eugene, Michigan mission, and we've seen our public services overwhelmed already with the people that live here. I believe that we should love our neighbors as we love ourselves. We are a diverse community, and we should continue to honor and respect one another. But I think we should seriously think about the implications of bringing people here who are not vetted and who haven't come here legally.
Thank you. Polly Renshaw, followed by Amy Anza.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for holding this space and listening to us this morning. My name is Naftali Renshaw. I use she, they pronouns. I am the director of the Belonging Space and the Interfaith and De-escalation Coordinator for Eugene Pride, as well as the trustees representative at the Maxwell Community Hub, where the Lavender Network resides. In my former life, I was a rural Texas librarian. I moved back to Oregon in 2017, having already seen the beginnings of inequities in our community. That library has since been on national news. They are a county of 19,000, and they have made national news for attempting to remove the stories of our Black, brown, and LGBTQ neighbors. When hate is loud, love must be louder still. This last year during Eugene Pride, during the march, we began our setup, and a person erupted from the area we were setting up our podium in, our speakers in, and began yelling obscenities and threatening to kill the LGBTQ members that were in the square. When hate is loud, love must be louder still. During the inauguration day, during voting day, my organization held an event to hold space with neighbors, and someone drove from Klamath Falls because they did not have community, and they needed to be in community as they waited for election results. They drove 3 hours up and turned around and drove 3 hours back because they did not want to be alone. When hate is loud, love must be louder still. In Texas, I saw a cross burned because of hate. And we are not so far away as we think we are. We're not so protected as we might think we are in a Eugene bubble. It's time for us to take a stand, not just with policies that are already on the board, but with demonstrative action, love in action, that tells our LGBTQ neighbors that they are safe with us. Every single day I see life-affirming and life-saving care.
Definitely, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Oh, thank you.
Amy Anza, and then we'll follow that with our online people that are standing by.
Hi, my name is Amy Ansa. My pronouns are she and her. Y'all have seen me here before. I just wanted to say, first off, thank you all so much for turning out. Oh my God, this is beyond our wildest dreams. When I first started coming here, there must have been a half dozen of us, and now we've got hundreds, and it's beautiful. This is, oh, it's so awe-inspiring. I wanted to keep talking about the ongoing need for the rights of LGBT folks, of any immigrants, specifically undocumented immigrants, to feel safe, to feel protected here. One of the things that I had thought about, actually, somebody asked me, why are you going to the county? Why not the city? Why not Eugene? Because the county is going to be the one that is able to protect people in Lowell and in Crestwell and in Coburg and other communities that they're wonderful, wonderful, beautiful places to live. I'm a huge fan. I used to drive bus for LTD, and so I've seen all over this wonderful county. But that's why we need y'all to say that we're gonna be okay. I also just want to say that my kid is Bien, just up here, and I am like the proudest parent in the world right now. I think it's kind of one of my dreams to be advocating for something with one of my kids. Yeah, we need you. We're desperate, and we're tired. I have a very similar story to the election one, where somebody, you know, came in from out of town. I did a meeting last night of a group that I founded, and we had somebody come from Newport for belonging and for community, and they felt safe enough here to be able to do that and to be a part of it, and it's heartwarming, and it's beautiful, and I ask that you choose love. I ask that all of you choose love, and you choose joy, and you choose belongingness and togetherness, and not divisiveness, and not hate. Hate is not going to get us anywhere. It's only going to breed more hate. If we choose love and we choose each other and we choose dignity and respect for everyone, then I've never been able to understand why anybody would ever choose hate and over love. Please choose love, everybody. Keep doing it. It's an active thing every day, every way. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Jessica, it's time to turn to our online queue. Do we have anyone online that wish to make public comment at this time?
Thank you, Chair. For those joining us virtually, if you would like to give public comment, please raise your virtual hand. And I do see one hand raised. Joe Tyndall, would you like to be on camera?
No, I'm fine.
You may begin your testimony.
Okay, Joe Tyndall. In the 2004 movie Mean Girls, the dim-witted character's name is Karen. May 25th, 2020, the day George Floyd died from a fentanyl overdose, a man asked a woman to leash her dog. As he videoed their interaction, this clueless Karen called 911, claiming the man attacked her. Normally, he would have been prosecuted. This time, she was charged for a false accusation. The outrage over this Karen's lies marked the turning point in the hashtag #BelieveAllWomenInsanity. The term Karen has now come to denote self-righteous, entitled, controlling, dishonest, backstabbing, aggressive, mostly female, woke behavior seeking to
Joe, we have lost your voice feed.
substantial portion are. The people trying to muzzle Commissioner Lovell's right to speak regarding his Christian values are Karens. Instead of trying to censor, do the work to explain why your thoughts are better than it. Commissioner Traeger then stated, quote, "Men are the greatest threat to women's safety." You got to laugh at this. Women, including protecting them, is the predominant strategy men apply to get laid. In fact, Karens spewing false, man-hating narratives threaten men's safety. So, Commissioner Traeger, I have a few questions to test your grip on reality. 1, why do lesbian couples have the highest rate of domestic violence? 2, why do women start family battles and escalate to violence first, 3/4 of the time? 3, if 1 in 5 women are raped at college, why are 79 out of 80 of these rapes never reported? 4, why are most rape claims cleared by police due to severe inconsistencies in her story? 5, why are women proven to have made false allegations to punish a man rarely prosecuted? 6, why is it that 1 in every 5 kids for which a man pays child support, he is not the father? 7, for the same crime, why are women less likely to be convicted and given lighter sentences? I will email this to you, Ms. Traeger. I expect answers before the next meeting. To help debunk your woke Karen ideology, watch the YouTube playlist, Girl Writes What. Finally, as an easy bonus question, was the Central Park Karen's false 9/11 report charge dismissed? Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Please, order, please. Jessica, is there anyone else online that wishes to give public comment?
No, we have no one else.
Okay, thank you very much. From the board, I'd like to say thank you and bless you for all those who came today and gave public comment. This was by far the largest turnout that I've ever seen, and I think some of the commissioners that have been here a long time have ever seen. I want to thank you for giving voice to the government. We have heard you. We have taken copious notes. I've watched my colleagues here at the dais take notes all through this, and I was proud to give everyone 3 minutes because I think it's important for everyone here to have the opportunity equally to represent and give their grievances and their concerns to their government. So again, I thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and we're going to move on with the business of the day. So thank you again for coming. Have a great day, everyone. As we move through,
wait a second.
Please, as you exit, please, can we be quiet so we can carry on with the business of the county?
We picked noon. Noon is available. Yeah, okay, so we're going to do noon, 12 to 12:15. Excellent. Yeah, there's just no way there's as many people out of here with us.
Just going to give a moment for folks to clear out a little bit. Going to give a moment for the folks to clear out just a little bit.
I was just mentioning there's probably no way for this many to even physically leave without creating ambient noise. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to item 5, our consent calendar. All items listed here are routine by the Board of County Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item would have been removed from the consent calendar and would be considered separately. Details to each item can be found in the blue links attached to the item descriptions of the agendas online. Vice Chair, could I get a motion for the consent calendar?
Chair, I have a motion. I move to approve the consent calendar for February 25th, 2025.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Buck for the approval of the consent calendar. I'll take the vote. All those in favor, please indicate with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Vote of the consent calendar passes 5-0. Item number 6, moving right along. I am searching the room, looking for Kate Budd. Oh, you're coming? Okay, good. All right. Well, we're having to funnel back through the upstream of the folks leaving, so we'll give those folks a minute to settle in.
Do you want to?
And Stephanie.
I'm going to step out. Yeah, I'll just step back.
Well, Kate, apparently you have a way of clearing a room and clearing a table. Good on you. Mr. Mokrasky, would you want to introduce this item with Kate, or would you rather Kate introduce her panel or myself?
Well, this is our regular update. I think Kate is pulling up a presentation for you, and so this is a update that we'll provide on our homeless system. And there is a lot happening.
James is clearly the techie person.
Hardly.
I'll let
Good.
him try it. Happy to begin. Commissioners, Chair, Vice Chair, thank you so much for having us. We are the Human Services Division. I am Kate Budd, Human Services Division Manager, and I am very pleased to be here with James Ewell, our Homelessness and Community Action Manager, and Stephanie Talbot, our Rent and Energy Assistant Supervisor. Both of these individuals have distinguished careers working with folks in various areas of service, and we're very fortunate to have them here with us at the county. As I mentioned, were you successful? No. James is our tech person, and he's working on it. So I will actually, I can start simply because I know my presentation, and we'll go from there. So As you are aware, there is an ever-growing population of seniors who are experiencing houselessness across Lane County. And unfortunately, we do continue to see that population of people grow. And we hear that concern among community members as well as colleagues within the county. And so there was an interest in creating a pilot program that would support seniors who are unhoused within the community. And so as we were exploring what that pilot program could look like, we heard from community members and service providers that one of the challenges that seniors who are unhoused are experiencing is that the assessment through the Lane Council of Governments Aging and Disability Services is challenging, not only for individuals to sit for the hour-long process, but also for them to have an appointment where they can ensure that that assessment takes place. As you can imagine, when someone is unhoused, scheduling appointments are challenging. Sometimes phones are not available or even just quiet spaces. And then once they have an appointment scheduled, it's difficult because time can be lost when someone is unhoused to actually get somewhere and arrive at an appointment around the time that it is scheduled. And then particularly if someone is dealing with some type of behavioral health challenge or physical health challenge or both, sitting for an extended period of time and being asked many different questions is also very challenging. And so as a result, we sought to work with Lane Council of Governments to help break down the barriers that the assessments were posing for seniors in our community. And really we're pleased that Lane Council of Governments was very receptive and had already created a complex care management program to start breaking down barriers for the general population of folks who were aging and had disabilities. But they didn't yet have staff who were focused on folks who were unhoused. And so, I'm going to get to my presentation. So the senior housing pilot was born, and we started to pursue dollars to be able to create 2 additional complex care staff members through Lane Council of Governments. And we're very fortunate that after writing a grant, Lane Community Health Council awarded a grant to Lane County to provide funds to the Lane Council of Governments to hire 2 complex care managers that would solely be focused on supporting seniors over the age of 60 who were unhoused. And so we're really pleased that this pilot is starting to come to fruition. A key part of the complex care manager's role through this pilot, and actually, let me pause here. This is a chart that I've shared with the commissioners before, and it illustrates the growing number of seniors who are unhoused within our community. The sheer numbers continue to increase, but at the tip top of those bars show the percentage of the total population among people who are unhoused that are over the age of 56. And so as our overall population of seniors overall population of people who are unhoused continue to grow, the number of seniors continues to grow proportionally. And so we really want to focus with this pilot on reducing the number of seniors who are unhoused. And we're going to work on doing that by utilizing a senior by name list. And for those of you who are familiar with the Veterans 365 initiative a number of years ago, this is similar in that it really is an opportunity to look at the full scope of seniors over the age of 60 who have been identified as houseless through our homeless management information system, which is where local providers over 45 different programs enter data each and every day. And this list is created and it is viewed through care conferencing meetings. And at those care conferencing meetings that will be led by the complex care managers with Lane Council of Governments, they are able to zoom in on specific people. And so if Kate Budd is on that list, there will be an opportunity to talk about, what are Kate's challenges and what is getting in the way of Kate being able to transition into permanent housing, and how can those of us on this care conferencing meeting, which is going to be happening at least every other week, really help reduce those barriers to help transition Kate into permanent housing. And we've seen great success with this case management meeting before and have utilized it most often when we need to transition folks out of shelters, for example, that are closing. And that when you bring together a large number of providers and they're really focusing on specific people and their specific needs, that we're able to move the needle and really help people move into more permanent housing. And so I mentioned that care conferencing or that case conferencing meetings that will happen at least every other week. And the facilitators will be Lane Council of Governments, complex care managers, but they will be inviting in staff from the Human Services Division, from street outreach, particularly among the rural communities and those who focus on them, the coordinated care organizations, Trillium and Pacific Source, our shelter providers, both knowing that there are seniors who are residing in shelters, and then there are also seniors who are residing on the street and need to move into shelters for short-term increased stability. And then our housing program providers, including the diversion program within Lane Human Services Division. And so as those groups start to coalesce, it'll be a great opportunity to really dig in and support households. And many of these groups get together already around different focus populations. And so this has been exercised and has been shown to be quite effective. So some of the roles that the Lane Council of Governments complex care managers will have include providing the assessments for aging and disability services. And these are very important because they identify if a senior might be eligible for assisted living, for adult foster care, for a special need type housing that is for someone who has specific disabilities. And in many cases, there are seniors who may qualify on paper for these services, but just do not have the ability to have that assessment done. And so we're looking forward to the assessments being done in the community and really meeting the individuals where they are. And maybe it's asking 2 or 3 questions at a time every time the care manager sees the individual until that assessment is done. And that type of flexibility is allowable and very much encouraged. We also expect them to be coordinating clinical care needs. We know that anytime someone is residing on the street for a year or more, their life expectancy reduced by at least 17 and a half years, which is very notable. And so it's important that we move, especially seniors, off the street as quickly as possible and get them into shelter and transition them into permanent housing while wrapping around the different types of healthcare that they might need so that the degradation of their health begins to lessen and we can see their overall quality of health improve. We also are looking for them to coordinate the benefits that are due to them based on the assessment as well as possible. And so, for example, in-home care might be something that a senior would be eligible to receive even if they're in an emergency shelter. And yet it is challenging to coordinate that. And so the care managers would work with the shelter providers to be able to welcome in in-home care supports to help the senior meet their activities of daily living. And so we're looking forward to seeing additional in-home care supports in shelters as well as in permanent housing for seniors. And then lastly, just really threading the needle between all the different care providers within the senior's life. Sometimes there are seniors who have, a lot of engagement in different services, but they don't know that they're working with this individual collectively. And so, one entity might be working on X, and another entity might be working with Y, and they're actually not working together. And so the care manager, they have an opportunity to bring those different entities together and be like, okay, how can we really help move the needle for this individual? And just continue to break down the barriers for them that are stopping them from being housed and also increase their quality of life overall. So the last component that is a part of the senior housing pilot is diversion. And we spoke with this commission before regarding the focus of diversion. And it is very much exploring the potential housing options that someone may have in their life. And so, for example, sometimes it's possible to be able to live with family or friends or in a shared housing situation. And diversion is really about exploring those options and seeing, if maybe living with a friend is a possibility, but the friend doesn't have the resources to be able to manage this person living in their house and eating their food. Diversion can step in and provide a food stipend to the friend so that the individual could be welcomed into the home. And so just really looking at creative housing options and then utilizing flexible funds to break down those barriers and help them enter into housing. And so this is one of many different housing paths that will be explored as a part of the pilot by the complex care managers. So ultimately, for this pilot, the focus is on exploring the various types of housing pathways that might be available for seniors. And what we're really pleased about is it includes those within the aging and disabilities world that sometimes can be enormously challenging for seniors to access, and that we're also able to do it in a much more collective and cohesive way. The overall outcome for this pilot is for Lane Council of Governments to permanently house 100 seniors within about a 1.5 year period. And so while this might be a lofty outcome, we also believe that by working collectively together, we can achieve this outcome, and if not, get very close. And so I look forward to being able to give you updates into the future. We expect this program to start in March. And very much appreciate those that are coming together as a part of the care conferencing efforts, and also Lane Council of Governments and Lane Community Health Council for their support.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'll be providing a relatively brief update before passing it along to Stephanie. As you all may remember, back in July of 2023, we began tracking where individuals experiencing homelessness in our county lost their housing. So we added it as a question to the HMIS, the Homeless Management Information System. So whenever an individual accesses an access point in our system, they are asked that question as a part of their intake. And what we've seen is that 79% of individuals have answered that they were residing in Lane County when they lost their housing, and 21% were outside of Lane County. This is consistent with communities across the country who have asked this same question. Overwhelmingly, people are experiencing homelessness in the communities that they were housed in. What we will continue to want to look at is further pulling apart the outside Lane County data. We don't currently ask was it another county in Oregon, was it another place in the Northwest. We just know that 79% of folks were residing within the county, and this is a sample size of almost 13,500 individuals. So this is between July 2023 when we first started asking and the end of January 2025. When you look at it broken down by community within the county, it's not surprising as the majority of folks experiencing homelessness in our community are residing within the Eugene area. So about 50% of folks are from Eugene, with the other smaller communities across our county having representation, and then a very small sample size of folks that have not ever held housing within our county. So again, this has been about 18 months worth of data, and really has reinforced what I think service providers have long been telling us, that the individuals that are experiencing homelessness in our community are, the vast majority are folks that are from our community and were housed in our community. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today about a new benefit that the Human Services Division is bringing into our scope of work. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Medicaid 1115 waiver, health-related social needs. I'm going to use the HRSN acronym quite a bit here. And what the portion of the benefit that the Human Services Division is getting involved in is the housing aspect of it. So we did, during the initial rollout of these benefits, apply for 3 capacity building grants to launch this program. 2 of those were funded, and 1, as you can see here, was funded under the Human Services Division in the HRSN housing category. Another one was funded by another program called Dovetail that does care coordination at the community health centers, and they're going to be doing outreach. And so really they're going to be identifying households in need of these benefits, and then we're hoping that we can coordinate together to then get those individuals who are identified as having needs the actual assistance. This is couched within the rent and eviction prevention programs. Really, since the pandemic, we've been running in-house rent assistance programs. And some of that just had to do with, at that time, to increase the overall capacity to get these services out into the community. But that team in 2024 assisted households, tenants in Lane County with $1.9 million, and those dollars went to 175 distinct local landlords. And so we're really focusing our efforts these days on people with the highest needs, so people who actually have an eviction notice and would be, called to court. We've built a strong network with our landlords and also referring partners sending people to this program. A lot of the landlords we've worked with for years and years and years now, and often just a commitment from us knowing that their rent will be paid by these programs is enough to divert the household from actually having to go to court. And so I really feel that in these programs, the landlords are really part of the solution and how we're going to mitigate and prevent more homelessness in our community. So our rent and eviction programs work on what we call a hub model. And the really advantage to this is ease of application for tenants. They don't have to understand all the acronyms and all the programs and who has funding at any one point in time. It's a centralized application. And so one example is we just entered into a contract with City of Eugene to offer affordable housing trust fund funds in the form of rent assistance to City of Eugene residents. Instead of building a new application and a new way for people to access this benefit, it's added to the array of benefits that we're screening through one application in our hub, which, again, we're really trying to make it easy for people to apply. And one of the ways we do this is through a network of referring partners. And those referring partners are everybody from 211, which is, very easy to get a hold of on the phone or online, to different medical clinics. We work with a lot of rural partners like the South Lane School District. We work with partners in, Florence, just a variety of local organizations where if you're there and you happen to tell your doctor that, you're struggling to pay for rent, they can refer you to this network of providers. And so it's kind of an exciting model in that we're also able to really connect with populations that may not know about mainstream services as well. So again, we're couching this program, the Health-Related Social Needs, HRSN, within our existing array of rent and utility assistance programs. And so one of the things to know is that when people come for any one service, they clearly need more than one thing. Being able to pay your rent usually means you're unable to pay your utility bill or have other needs. Well, we are only involved in the providing of the housing-related services for HRSN. There are other services, climate devices, so they will help people get air conditioners or heaters if they have need for those based on their medical conditions. Home remediation, so like grab bars or ramps to allow people to stay in their homes. And then they're also rolling out nutrition supports. So through this Medicaid benefit, they'd be able to help people with medically tailored meals. And so by rolling this into this array of services, we're able to more completely support the individuals in need. So the HRSN services are, as I said, part of this Medicaid waiver. It runs from 2022 to 2027. The climate services, nutrition services, outreach and engagement services, and housing services are the package of services that are being funded. These services are being managed by the coordinated care organizations, the CCOs, and in Lane County, that's Pacific Source and Trillium. And the reason they're investing, and the Oregon Health Authority is investing in these services, is to really lower medical costs. People who receive these services are have diagnoses of acute medical or mental health challenges, and it's much cheaper to keep these people housed and treat their health-related issues through interventions before it becomes a crisis and they end up in shelters or at a crisis center or having other type of first responder responses. The services that are available are up to 6 months of rent and utilities, case management for housing stabilization. So again, that's getting them involved in the package of different services that are available both through HRSN and through other services available through the Human Services Division. The services are reimbursable 100%. So when we pay somebody's rent, we get 100% reimbursement. Time with the tenant is billed in 15-minute increments in the current funding model. And then who qualifies for these services? You must be an Oregon Health Plan recipient, so that's our local Medicaid services, you have to have a clinical risk factor. So like I spoke about, the acute medical or mental health issue, and we're clearly not healthcare providers, so it is our CCO partners who are going to screen for that part of the eligibility. Have a social risk factor. For the housing services, the way they're defining the social risk factor is 30% of area median income and below. And you need to have a current rent agreement or lease. So at this point in time, these services are not available to people who are not in a current housing situation. So it's not going to be part of our solution for getting unhoused people into housing. And so again, how does this really benefit our community? It's just myriad the ways that this can have an impact on, if you think it's 30% median income and less, a severe acute medical issue, these are the most vulnerable people in our community. So it can overall reduce healthcare costs, reduce demands on other services, as I said, shelter or first responders or crisis centers, and the emergency room. And then keep landlords whole by paying arrearages. Even when a landlord ends up in an eviction court, if they owe thousands and thousands of dollars, they may get a judgment that that household has to pay, but that's not a guarantee that they will actually receive those funds. People who are indigent often cannot meet those obligations. So this really is a way to help our local landlord community not face, the loss of their home, their second home that they have, that they're just barely eking out paying the mortgage on themselves. So we're really excited that we're very near implementation here in Lane County. We are working through the final stages of contracting with both Pacific Source and Trillium providers. That both the Human Services Division housing portion and Dovetail are in the process right now. And there are other local providers providing this service. And so there are different providers at different stages of their contracting. Some people, like Homes for Good, have already launched their programs and are serving their residents in their subsidized housing, but they're just rolling this out in different waves. One of the things our partners at the CCOs are telling us is there's a very high need in Lane County. Proportionally to our population, we're seeing a high number of applications for the housing services specifically. And right now, there is a significant period of time waiting for these services. They're still serving applicants who applied in November. So we're really excited to add capacity to this network and be able to get the services out to the community faster. We still see some barriers to implementation. Of course, it's new, and everything comes with challenges. There's a new data system that they're requiring be used for this. It's called Unitas, also sometimes referred to as Connect Oregon. And how that's going to be integrated with our homeless management information system, so we can get the great overall data that has been shared here about who's facing challenges in our community. So how we're going to integrate those, we're still working out that. And then the integration into the hub model. In rolling out this service, it has its own unique application. So how do we make sure that people have as low of barriers as possible to getting the services they need? So we're still refining some of our systems around offering this service. But we are very excited. We have new staff coming on next week to operate this program. Our contracts with the coordinated care organizations are nearly executed, and we anticipate starting these services in April. Thank you.
Busy.
And that does conclude our presentation. Any questions?
Awesome presentation, Kate, as usual. You guys are doing a great job. To the board, any comments or questions that you have? Yes, Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few funding questions, actually for both presentations, but I'll start with the first one. So that program is funded by the Lane County Health Council, which I have to say I'm not necessarily totally familiar with. Where is their funding coming from? Is it philanthropy? Is it federal, state, local? Where does that bucket of money come from that they're able to grant out?
Sure. So the Lane Community Health Council is a partner with the Pacific Source Coordinated Care Organization and is their public benefit entity.
Okay.
And so they provide dollars that Pacific Source can offer to local nonprofits or governmental entities and grant those dollars out on a regular basis.
And does that funding come in a lump sum, or is it a reimbursable type of funding to us?
Lump sum.
Lump sum. So the money's in the bank?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know for sure. And leads me into my second question regarding the Medicaid 1115 waiver and that funding source. As we know, Medicaid funding in general may be on the chopping block for this administration. And is the waiver through the federal government Medicaid system, or how does that funding or reimbursement method, how does that happen?
It is. It's via the state, and then they work with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, and so it may absolutely be affected if and when Medicaid is affected at the federal level.
Is it? Do we contract with them for the Medicaid waiver, or is it just a program they're putting out as like an RFP? How does that system work?
So my understanding is that it is the state that has the contract with the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare, and then the state through Oregon Health Authority, they then contract with the CCOs to then enter into agreements with local entities like Lane County, who then can bill for direct costs such as rent, and then the outreach and engagement services, as well as tenancy supports, which are on a by service status. And so it's not a reimbursement necessarily, especially regarding the engagement and tenancy supports. It's a service kind of cost. So we bill for a service and then receive dollars back.
Okay. And so this one starts in April, and we have a pretty big federally blanket date of like March 14th, I think, for budget, either continuing resolution at the federal funding level, or they're going to implement something different. And that's really up in the air. So obviously we're proceeding because we haven't been given any advice that this isn't going to happen or we're not going to be funded. But it could be subject to some federal funding change. And hopefully we'll know before implementation, because what I get a little concerned about is if we start the program and then funding ceases and we're already kind of in the midst of the program and people are already receiving services and then something stops. I know that we don't have the answers now, and we won't until if and when that actually occurs. But it always concerns me to start into a program where we have some kind of inclination that that funding source may not really be stable for any period of time. What's the length? It starts in April, and how long did you anticipate that particular program to be? A year, year and a half?
So the Medicaid waiver is in place until 2027.
7.
Is it? Yeah. And then that waiver could be renewed and continue forward.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have. I'm certainly a fan of both programs and want you to know that I fully support what you're doing. I just get a little concerned about some of where the dollars are coming from.
Yes, Commissioner Trigger.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I love this senior program. It's a great example of, people often talk about, silos, and so we're breaking down those silos, but allowing people to continue to practice in areas of specialty, which is not the same as siloing, because there are some really specialized needs and ways of meeting them. So thank you for that. My questions are also financial, but they're specifically about the Landlord Mitigation Fund. The 1.9 million, what is the source of that fund? A series of questions about it. Where does the 1.9 million come from?
Thank you. And actually, if you'd like to.
Thank you. That was a combination of funds, the 1.9 million in rental assistance provided. It was still the end of some of our COVID era ERA emergency rental assistance funds. It is part of the emergency order from the governor, some of the, what they call the Oregon, even I get hung up on the acronyms, ORDAP, Oregon Eviction Diversion Prevention Program. And then some of it was actually last year's Affordable Housing Trust Fund from the City of Eugene. So it's a culmination of federal, state, and local funds.
And so that is all for arrearages and rental assistance. Is that separate from the mitigation fund that helps if there are repairs and things so that landlords are more likely to want to rent to folks that they otherwise would have concerns about not being made whole? Is it specifically rental dollars being replaced?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have data about, that's 1.9 million to only 175 landlords. Is there data about how many of those 175 are locally owned, smaller, you referenced like a couple who has one second home as a rental income, struggling to pay their mortgage, being made whole, but we also certainly have quite a few REITs, right? Real estate investment trusts operating larger national, even international corporate landlords operating in this community. Do we have any breakdown of where those dollars go?
When we write a check to a landlord, we do ask for a W-9 form. Sometimes that is somebody's social security number that they're using as a business number. Sometimes it's a, state of Oregon's, tax ID number. But we really don't have a way to differentiate if somebody has a business tax ID number, how large that business is or not.
And so it's your program that is screening for eligibility and managing the funds and dispersing those funds. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Farr.
Thanks. I think Ryan may have had a hand up first, but.
No.
Okay. Where do we begin? I spend a lot of time with you all, and I hear about all the things that you do, and every single time I find out about new things that you do, and then comes today, and I find out how so much more than I know you are actually doing and putting on the ground. It really is truly impressive how much work your department does in bringing, identifying the needs, but more significantly bringing the needs, bringing resources to address the needs. And Stephanie, what's particularly impressive to me is when we coordinate between agencies, when we make it easier for people to access the services that we're providing, and to have a let's see, what did you call it? It's a, oh, I'm sorry, it's the coordinated entry form. What is it?
The hub model.
Thank you. And having just a single entry form to make it easy for people to access our services, even though they may not be, this may not be their initial front door, doorstep to get into the services. I'm kind of stumbling over my words there because there's so many things to say about it. And it just really is remarkable that we are able to address the very needs of the people who need the services the most. And we're talking about two very specific programs here. The first is the Senior Homelessness Initiative pilot, which once again is coordinating a whole lot of services into the very needs of the people who are needing the services. And what I'm trying to get to there is we have a model, which was Operation 365, that you identified various elements of that model that you're actually reusing, using a dynamic by name list, for instance. And we remember that model Operation 365 was initiated by First Lady Obama, and brought it right down to the county level. And we were very successful with some of the initiatives that were developed during Operation 365. I'm glad to see that. So, and once again, I'm stumbling with my words because there are so many things to say. Do we call this Operation 100? Is that the name of this? That we're looking to house 100 seniors and senior families in 1 year. You say that is you say that's a very let's see, a lofty goal, I think is the term that you actually use, Kate. And I think we can do it, you know, by using the methods that we have proven, by bringing people together and by using landlords as a key. And I'm particularly interested by with the lessons that we've learned from about diversion, lessons that we learned from all in Lane County that identifying what people's housing options are, and potentially with very little cost, putting people into housing that's already available just with a little bit of assistance on our part. A lot to say about this, and I could go on and on and on, but I'm just very impressed by the fact that we're bringing this together. And the housing-related social needs, I wanted to get onto that very quickly. We're launching in April, and that is we're ready to go with that. April is now, you know, it's right around the corner. And so I'm really excited to hear how that works. My question on that is, how are we going to report the progress on that? As you know, as we actually identify the services, and are we going to have a dashboard perhaps, or a way to? There's a softball for you, Kate.
Yes, thank you. We do intend to have a dashboard and really appreciate that staff will be doing double entry into both Unitas and the Homeless Management Information System so that we can track in the same way that we do the programs for people who are in need of preventing houselessness as well as experiencing houselessness.
That leads me to my last question, and that is regarding Unitas, which is nationwide is how it's being used currently, and we are a recent participant in Unitas. Any experience with that yet, or do you have optimism that it's going to be? We've had things thrown at us before and say, use this, it's going to be the final be-all, end-all. Is this going to be?
We'll find out, right? We haven't done much with it yet. They're building out our platform, and so I think we'll learn in the upcoming months. It is the primary way that we will be billing the coordinated care organizations, and so it will be an important platform. And do know that they're very much open to, just discussing how they can build out features so that it can be as user-friendly and valuable as possible.
Well, they tout that they're going to reduce costs, streamline processes, and support your clients more efficiently with one platform. I'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully that it does provide that. We've seen it in different forms, not this in different forms, but trying to bring everything into a single platform. And quite often what works for St. Louis doesn't work for Lane County. So we'll see how, St. Louis, for instance. So we'll see how that moves. Kate, you and I will spend a little bit of time talking, so I'll ask more of my questions as we drive to Salem on Friday, but look forward to hearing more about this and look forward to seeing the progress. Stephanie, thanks very much for bringing this to us. Once again, my eyes are a lot wider than they were 1 hour ago. Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Well, I had the pleasure of meeting with Eve Gray for an hour yesterday. So we went over some of these questions, and one of them I didn't think about till after we left was, and this is part of, as Commissioner Farr was saying, the different committees. I'm not involved in the Homeless and Poverty Committee, is not one of my duties here, but the Homeless Management Information System. Can you break down how does that work? How do they get that information? Who are they talking to? And what does that look like? Because I'm kind of shocked by these numbers.
Sure. So if I were to walk over to the dining room that's run by Food for Lane County and have lunch, they would greet me and ask me a series of questions that I could answer or not answer. And as I'm responding, they would be entering that information into the Homeless Management Information System. And that happens across the community among over 40 different programs each and every day. And depending on the program, the type of information varies. And so as you can imagine, for the dining room, it's very minimal. But then for a housing program, for example, in fact, a shelter, the information would be greater because there are pieces of data, demographics in particular, that we're required to ask due to the different funding sources that we have. And then the system, because it's based on individuals, it allows us to be able to pull data on an individual basis so that we can identify unduplicated data. For example, yesterday I was sharing the number of people who utilize the Egan severe weather shelters. And was also able to share the number of bed nights that was available. And those two different pieces of information are things that we can pull from the Homeless Management Information System. And it's much to the credit of our providers who take time each and every day to enter quality data and then do a data quality check on a regular basis to make sure that our data is accurate and strong and meeting the requirements of the different funding sources. And we are actually one of the communities that has the highest data quality and the highest number of participating agencies across the nation. And as a result, our data is very strong, and we can even utilize it as a part of our point-in-time count, which is a special HUD approval that not all communities receive.
Yeah, that's a pretty robust system. So basically, I mean, it sounds like anybody that's really using our services is going to go through this and being noted here. Now if somebody's taken in, say, to the sheriff's office or Eugene EPD brings somebody into the jail, is that information inputted into here? Would that also be?
It is not, no.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. I just have a couple of small questions from the landlord's perspective. I've just quick question on that reimbursement or that covering of a landlord of damages of an eviction. Is there a limit to that, a price limit to that, out of curiosity?
So the executive order landlord mitigation program, that has a limit of $20,000. And that program is actually going to be transitioning to the state in the future, and that will remain at $20,000. And we are very pleased about that. That was an advocacy opportunity.
Oh, that's a very surprising amount. I was figuring it was going to be a lot less. I mean, our last one was around that, so that was what I was concerned with, if that was actually enough to make the mitigation concerns okay for the landlords, and that's beautiful. Great job. Last thing was just about, you said we're going to try to get 175 people this rent eviction assistance, and I'm just, I always do the math, and so I figured that was almost $11,000 per person. About how many months does that provide for stabilization? I noticed that in one of your slides, you said that was like 6 months, but is there like an extended period of time for folks? Because as you have indicated, it's certainly a lot easier to get people to stay in the house than to start that wheel all over again. Is there a limitation to the amount of time that we can assist folks as well?
So with the health-related social needs benefit, there is that maximum time of 6 months of rent assistance. Then there is tenancy supports, which is kind of the case management piece. And that is also an initial 6 months, though it could continue, my understanding, up to 18 months. And so the hope there is it would continue to stabilize that household far beyond the rent assistance need.
Yeah, that's great, because even the conversation that we had with Director Gray yesterday, with her main concern was to find affordable or housing that could accommodate folks that are in this 30% AMI. When you start doing that math, that's a disturbingly low number of dollars that a person gets in a year. It's like $17,000 a year for the public, to put that in some decent perspective. And there's just no way in God's green earth someone's going to find someplace to live on $17,000 a year in Lane County. So this is a great program. I certainly appreciate all of the work you've done to make sure they've housed. And I think the sobering thing that I'm going to take away from this is, at 63 years old, I sincerely qualify as a senior, and I am going to have to wrap my head around that for a few minutes. So I thank you very much for your time. And any other comments or questions from the board? Yes, Commissioner Farr.
Actually, there was one further question, and it's regarding the fact that we know when people are accessing services, they need other services, and finding ways to get them to the other services. And Stephanie, you mentioned that doctors, when seniors potentially, I think it was you that said it, when they're visiting doctors, potentially they can access other services through that doctors by the doctor finding out that they need rental assistance. Is there a formal way to get that information to doctors so they can kind of probe for that?
So, for example, in our community health centers,
Yeah.
there is a direct referral that a healthcare provider can fill out to connect their patients with the Dovetail program, which then can, help them navigate the services landscape. We have some clinics that we have relationships with. There is Orchid Health that is up the McKinsey and in Veneta that we have relationships with as far as being able to refer to these services. G Street Integrated Health, but it's not a universal offering that we have been able to network with all the medical providers in town.
It's a complex network of medical providers, no question about it. But it's intriguing to think that, doctors do hear things that other people never hear. Attorneys do too, but doctors specifically in this case. And if our community health centers are doing that, that's one huge step for the 28,000 or so primary care patients that we have. But we are partners with Peace Health, and we are partners at levels with McKenzie Willamette. It'd be interesting to get information to them. Doctors have a lot to listen to and a lot to think about, but identifying the specific needs, as you say, providers focusing on specific people and their specific needs. We have a specific group of people here who we've identified, seniors 60 plus, who are at an alarming rate becoming homeless and becoming in need of services. We're just finding ways to get them into diversion potentially before they get to the point where greater services are needed. Kate, you said 17 and a half years diminished lifespan for people living on the street. Let's focus on that. That's a huge, huge number. Thanks.
Anything else? All right. Well, we thank you very much for the presentation, James, Stephanie, and Kate, and Director Gray. Thank you very much for all your hard work. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mokryski, is there anything else that we need to attend to for the morning session?
No, sir.
If not, we are concluded with our morning business of the day. We will recess until 1:30. We'll meet back here in Harris Hall. We are recessed.